My name is Annalisa. I'm a knitter based in London, and I am coming to you from my living room where I've got all my birthday cards because it was my birthday last weekend, and it is grey and miserable outside. Like, I have to go out after this, and I'm not looking forward to it. But I'm happy to be back. I'm happy to be doing a normal podcast update. I've got a bunch of things to kind of talk about and also a few things that I actually need some advice on. So yeah, let's get into the knits, and thank you for being here. Also, thank you everybody who watched my planning video and all of your kind supportive comments on my crazy ideas. It was lovely. And I love doing those videos because I have so much fun dreaming up knits and imagining what I could create. So yeah, let's get into my first finished object. I've got two finished objects. One of them I'm wearing. If you don't know what this is, then you probably haven't watched my previous episodes because this has been kind of on my needle since I started this channel. And then I've got two finished objects. I've got two whips from like bringing in from last year. And then one, two, three, four-ish whips that we can talk about. Some of them are more progressed than others. Maybe five-ish. Well, no, one's a swatch, that doesn't count. Okay, so finished object, what I'm wearing, my Evie cardigan. This is a pattern by Sari Nordland. I made a lot of modifications to this. I'm going to try and list them all out. Ooh, that's what I did. I updated my Ravelry with finished objects. I haven't gotten to the point where I'm putting whips on, but I have updated my finished objects from 2025, not including this, so I need to do this one. But when I do, I will go through and list out all of the little modifications that I made, which is quite a lot. The big kind of lens that I took on all of my modifications was that I wanted it to be more of a jacket fit than a cardigan, which is kind of the design itself. So it was very much me wanting to make changes to the design. And yeah, I absolutely love it. It's exactly what I had in my head, which rarely happens. Like normally you're like, oh yes, I'm gonna do it. You have this grand vision, and then about halfway through you're like, this is not, and pivot and come up with a new vision that's maybe more realistic. But this one actually just executed so well on what I had in my head. And like I said, I made a lot of modifications. Most of them were to kind of make it more jackety. So things like I changed the reverse stockinette to seed stitch on all of the kind of sides and arms. I did a certain number of these kind of like seam stitches. So on the shoulder here, I did the seam here, which isn't in the pattern. I also did a seam here, kind of, there's a few different ways that I do this, but mostly like which I also added into one of my whips, but mostly I do kind of like when I pick up stitches, I then do a round of purls, and then I do a round of a lateral braid, and then I go into the repeat, and it kind of creates this lovely seam, which, yeah, really like that. I changed the sleeves quite a lot. I definitely stopped following the pattern at that point. I knit, I believe, a size 3, between a 3 and a 5, depending on which part of the pattern I was knitting. So I think width-wise, I was about a 3, maybe a 4. I'll look back over my notes. I think I did actually print this one out and like actually highlight where I was. And yeah, I love it. There's certain things that I really care about, like how the pattern flows into the ribbing. So I did, like here, you can kind of see made myself. You can kind of see how like the seam details just sort of go into the ribbing, which makes me very happy. I put these buttons on that I got at Loop before Christmas. I'm just gonna try and like do this so you can fall over. You can just kind of see it. I'll try and put in some B-roll of me wearing it. And yeah, that's sort of where we are at with this one. Yeah, I also did things like here, I did like a seam detail, what is it? Seam detail there before I went into the ribbing. That's not part of the pattern. I did another cable down the side under the arm. That was purely for my own entertainment. And the button band is double knit button band. I did knit that to pattern. My idea with this is that I'll be able to wear it over stuff. It's like the perfect sleeve length for me. It's the perfect, yeah, it just turned out so well. I'm so happy with it. I knit it in a cone yarn I found on Etsy. I will link the shop that I found it at. They don't have any more of this particular yarn, but this is a 20% cashmere, 80% wool, and it is from Kariagi, and it was one of those that like, because it's got something on it for the knitting machines, it's like blooms just incredibly beautifully. But it was actually really nice to knit with in the unbloomed form. And yeah, overall, I'm thrilled. I can tell the settings have changed on this camera, and it's blowing me out a little bit, but we're just gonna go with it and hope that doesn't cause too many problems in editing. To be totally transparent, so I also think I fixed the mic problem. We'll find out when I go to record this, or when I go to edit this. I apologize for that last time. I got a new mic, or my husband got a new mic, and I'm using it. I use all of his kit. None of this is mine, which is also part of why I don't know how to use it. And yeah, well, we work it out as we go. I appreciate everybody who's very patient with me as I learn the technology that goes behind making these videos. So anyway, Evie cardigan, happy as can be, absolutely love it. And yeah, that's my finished object number 1. Finished object number 2, I started right as I was leaving for California, which I flew on, I think, New Year's Eve. And I cast it on like right before so that I had something to kind of work on the plane. And these are the Evie mittens by Woozy by Celine. These are a lovely, simple mitten. The back has this beautiful sort of star stitch. The front is just plain stockinette, and it has a kind of double knit wrist thingy, cuff. Yeah, that's the word. Now, I modified these slightly, so I mostly knit it to pattern. There's a couple modifications. This is mostly because regardless of when I go for a walk, I usually have my dog with me, and I usually need to be able to get into a dog poo bag. And to do that, if you've never had a dog in a city or used dog poo bags, you need to like put your fingers together to get them to unstick so that you can open them. So I wanted to be able to so I need like both my thumb and my finger. So it wouldn't work to just do like a finger hole on the base of it. So I did this kind of like, I did 2 things. So I did basically like a buttonhole here, which is not the most like attractive thing, but it works. You don't really see it. And then I did this sort of flap here, which I would probably do slightly different the next time I did this. Let's see if I can do this in front of my face. But basically how I did that was I got to a point in the pattern. I would have, edits to this, I probably would have done this earlier in the pattern. So I probably would have done this like down here. But I got to a point in the pattern where I thought I wanted the opening to be, and I continued the back side to be the same pattern. And then the front side the palm side, I did a rib, and then I cast off. So you can kind of see the cast off edge there. And then I just cast back on stitches and continued to knit the pattern up until the top. And then when I had finished that, I went back, picked up stitches along that cast on edge and knit down this little flap and then sewed it down. So I don't know if there's a better way to do that. I'm sure there is a more creative knitty way to do that, but that's how my little brain worked. And overall, I'm really happy. I knit the size medium. I love this stitch pattern, and I love this stitch pattern for variegated yarns. I think it just, like, compared to the stockinette side, I just think that the stitch pattern makes it like that much more special. Like brings out the variegation in the yarn. So I knit this with, this was like a splurge on my side. I went into Loop to buy these buttons, and I have been looking at this yarn from Queen Fiber. I'll put an image of what it looked like on the screen. It was so pretty. And it's a cashmere silk core. So cashmere fluff with like a silk core, and it was just hand dyed in these beautiful colors. So I got one skein of that, which is, I actually have, so it's like a 25 gram skein. I actually have 10 grams left. So I'm actually thinking I might do a fingerless version of these, maybe with a different base yarn. So I knit this with a cream colored yarn, which I think brings out the colors really nicely. But I think I've got a light blue that might go well with it. Yeah, I think I might try it with something else because there's only 10 grams of it, but I think that gets me probably enough to do. If I only use 15 grams for this, there might have been more than that. I didn't actually weigh the skein before I knit it up. So it's possible there was a little extra, but even then I think I could do it and then do the cuff in a different, like without the variegated option, like cuff and if whatever I do to kind of close off the top here. I don't know what that would be. So if I was to redo this, how I would finish off. I could do it with a double knit thing. Could be interesting. We'll see. I don't know if I'll be doing that this winter or some other time, but I think that's kind of in my head what I will use the rest of that skein for, because I do want to use it all up because it was expensive and it's beautiful and I want to use it. But yes, I'm very happy with these. They are probably on the lighter side for what I actually wear in the winter. So I don't really have a lot of like light colored coats. I mostly have like black and black. I have some other, but they're like darker, richer colors. So this is a little out of my like wardrobe, but it still makes me so happy, this color combination. I will put the color name and the actual base in the description along with, so the cream one that I used is like a sport weight cashmere yarn that I had in my stash for like decades at this point. So, or at least over a decade. And I don't, the ball band just said green on it, and that's it. I don't know if they're still in production or there's no other information. So happy with these. Second finished object, my Evie Mittens, Woozy by Celine. She has a hood that has the same stitch pattern. I'm not really, no, I want to do more of a, I forget what they're called. I'll put it on the screen. But I want to do one of those. I have one from the Rose Knitwear book that I really want to do. But these were just stunning. And I think they would make really nice fingerless mittens as well, just because that stitch pattern is really beautiful and it's fun and simple and yeah, great pattern. So happy with those. Right, that is my finished objects. Whips. I'm going to start with simple one I cast on. which is a pair of DK socks. So this is from the pattern. I'm just following the one from the Summerlee's sock project book. And again, I've not used a lot of variegated yarn. I've not used a lot of hand-dyed yarn. I don't know that I would in a sweater right now, but at least in how I wear my clothes right now, it's just, I don't know how I would wear it, but I do love them in socks. They do bring me a lot of joy to knit up. So I am knitting with, this is also a queen, I don't know how to say it, fiber skein. I'll put a photo on the screen. This was part of a de-stash from another YouTuber that I was watching over Christmas, and she was like, I'm clearing out some stuff. Have a look if you want anything. And I had a look and I found this skein of 100 grams of this sock yarn it has a little bit of cashmere, but I think it's mostly, I think it might be superwash wool and nylon. And the colors just spoke to me. I thought they were really fun. It's like browns and neons and colorful. And then I've done 2 stripes, sort of like sports stripes at the top. I'm not very sporty, so they are, but this is just total scrap yarn from my stash, which is just this color. And I'm pretty sure this is just a superwash sock yarn. And I did that. So I'm on the heel flap now, but this is sock number 1, and I pick it up when I feel like knitting on it. I'm just gonna do a rib sock. I can't remember if I said the pattern. It's from the Summerlee sock project book, DK ribbed socks. And so far so good. We'll see how those go. I've never knit DK weight socks, and I really enjoy the speed that they are knitting up. I quite like just cozy house socks, which is mostly how I wear my knit socks anyway. So having them be a little bit more thick and cozy seems like a good idea. So yeah, I'm holding this yarn double. I don't know if I mentioned that, to reach a DK. You could figure that out, I'm sure. But yeah, we'll see how those work up. I'm happy playing with some variegated yarn. It's just kind of new to me, so I know people get really into it. I'm gonna try not to get really into it because I don't need to buy any more yarn. I will buy more yarn, but I don't need to. So that is, yeah. We're just gonna only buy when we have a very specific project in mind. I think that's my kind of remit for variegated yarn, because they are just so pretty in the skein, and I just know that I won't wear it in a garment the way that I see some of these garments that are knit with variegated yarn. Like, I think they're so beautiful, but it's just not my style, and I want to wear my knits. So yeah. Right. Let's talk about my cartavest. So this is something I've been working on since the end of last year, and I brought it. It's been a really slow project, actually, because I've just not dedicated a ton of time to it. It's never my kind of primary whip. It's sort of one that's on in the background. But it is great for traveling. So because it's sort of engaging, because it's this herringbone pattern. Do that. This is knit with reclaimed cashmere yarn that I had previously knit into my step-by-step cardigan. And then reclaimed from that because it wasn't what I had in mind. And I think it's creating this incredible fabric. Like, it's just squishy and delightful, and it's a slip stitch pattern, so you're getting a lot of texture, but like in a squishy way, and which will give it some nice structure. And lots of little techniques in this that I think I could bring into other patterns. Just really enjoyed it so far. But it's not one that I'm like drawn to pick up per se. And on top of that, I've hit kind of a point where I need to make a decision, and we all know how that goes. So I have basically, I've done 2 of these panels. So I finished one of these in California. I had finished one prior to California. So I have the 2 front panels, which I think go something like this. And then I'm about to cast on the back panel, and I have about this much left of the yarn. So it's about enough to do like half of the back. And I need to come up with something to go with it. My initial plan for this was to dye the yarn that I used in the leftover yarn that I used in my late checkout sweater, the kind of gray sweatshirty version, and turn that into something, try and get that somewhat close, which is like a gray variegated cotton cashmere. And it's a similar weight, so I figured that would be good. So I attempted to dye it, and the dyeing came out like fine. It's just not the right color for this. So this is a beautiful color. This is what it came out as. It's definitely more pinky red, but if you kind of compare it to this, it's definitely not. It actually looks better together on camera than it does in real life. But basically, I'm not loving these 2 together. And so I think I'm going to figure out something else to do with this. I don't entirely know what. I don't think I'll be using this for this project. It's just not quite the right thing, which I kind of knew was a possibility, because when you dye things, it's a bit of an experiment. I have received a lot of questions about dyeing over the last few episodes, because I talk about how I might dye stuff. And the reason I haven't done a video on it yet is because I'm definitely like experimental and I don't get it right. Like, I definitely don't get it right all the time. So I would feel weird like giving advice on doing this. That said, I can go through my experience if you're interested in that, and how to maybe not do the mistakes that I've done in the past. It's pretty simple, like process-wise, you tend to follow the instructions, but I just do it at a lower heat. But I'm happy to talk. I'm happy to do a little video on like my experience with dyeing and over dyeing. I'm not doing like tray dyeing with acid dyes and stuff. I'm using like the basic stuff that you buy, like what's it called? RIT or Dylon or one of those kinds of things. I've used both. And I kind of mix colors and I play with things and densities of it and things like that. But it is very experimental. So if you're interested in any of that, feel free to like ask me a question about it. I will maybe put together a video about that. I'll try and manage everybody's expectations that I don't really know what I'm talking about. I just play with it. And sometimes I get like pleasant surprises. Like I usually get a color I like. It's just not necessarily easy to be like, I want this color and then have it turn out that way. I don't find that to be true. So anyway, so my next steps for this, so because it's kind of just on hold right now until I figure out what I'm holding this, like what I'm doing with the rest of the yarn I have and what I'm combining that with. I think I'm going to I've got lots of little balls of it, so I think I'm just going to take a little ball of it to a yarn shop and see if I can match it with something, probably a wool or like, yeah, see if I can find either a complementary or a matching something to go with it. Because it's variegated, I think it's going to have to like pick up on one of the 2 sort of main colors that are in here. So I'm just gonna, there's sort of a lighter and then a richer color. So we'll see what happens with that. I'm not in any rush. I would love to have this object and I feel like I've gotten pretty far with it. I would like to just cast on the back so that I've got it going. People talk a lot about like cast on-itis and like casting lots of things on and I've cast a lot of things on, but I find that actually a really difficult thing to do. Like I will always pick up the thing that I'm already working on over casting something new on. So I'm like have pushed myself this month to like be swatching and casting stuff on and like really getting stuff to a point where I can pick it up when I want to work on it. And this is what's holding me from working on this, is I just haven't cast on the back yet. And yeah, so I want to do that. So that's my Carta vest. Still a work in progress, probably will be for a little bit longer, but hopefully I will have some progress on it in the next video, maybe. Next whip that's coming over from last year is my homestead sweater, which I've not done as much on as I would have liked, but I think I think it was part of why I held off filming this for a while, because I really struggle to work on this, not because it's difficult and not because it's something I don't want to work on or don't enjoy working on. It's that it like requires me sitting down with like a plethora of balls of color, because I've made this more complicated than the pattern, and like spending a dedicated amount of time. And then when I'm done, I have to like roll up back everything up, put it back away. Otherwise it just takes over a room, and we just don't have that many rooms. So I'll show you where I'm at with this. Let's see if we can do this. So as you can see, we are kind of coming up. I'm kind of working on the sky right now. This is the other challenge with this. So I'm playing with a lot of colors here that are not in the pattern, and I'm playing with like gradients in the sky and things like that. And I'm struggling to do that in the dark. So it's dark a lot of the time in England right now. It is very gray and rainy today, which is like the perfect day to stay indoors and knit. Of course I have to go out, but I do feel like I need daylight to work on this. So I'm struggling to kind of find the time for there to be daylight for me to work on this while I spread everything out, because most of my knitting time is in the evening anyway, except for on the weekends. So I think I've only actually, since the last time I showed this, I think I've only maybe done 2 sittings of working on this, and it goes quick once you actually get into it. As you can see, I have added a tree into the picture, which isn't, there's a tree in the original design, but it's like way further back and much smaller. So I brought that to the forefront, and then I've started working on the house. I've also added some greenery back here. I'll put her version up and then just put this up next to it so that you can kind of see. It's definitely different. I'm still following the general proportions and flow of hers, and I'm definitely learning a lot about Intarsia and not just like how to do it and how to do it well, but also like what I enjoy in the Intarsia process versus what I don't enjoy in the Intarsia process. So kind of when is it difficult to transfer or like to change yarns, and yeah, just really little things that I think if I were to start from scratch and like create my own, it's giving me a lot of information to work with on that. My goal for this is to get it to the point where in the pattern you start making shaping for the neck, and then from there put it on a holder thingy and do a bit of embroidery on it to see if I can kind of get it to a place that I'm happy with and want to keep going with it. If I want to keep going with it, then I will, and I will just turn this into like my fun little homestead sweater that I've played with. If I just feel like it can't quite get there, which my part of me is wondering if I can't, simply because the gauge is quite large, which makes it fun to work on because then it goes quite quickly, but you can't get as much detail, obviously. We'll see. I'm still enjoying it. I still really want to finish this, at least to the point where I've talked about, where it's kind of the full image is on. And then we'll go from there and see it works. But I think I'm gonna try and work on it this weekend, see if I can get some stuff done. Probably for the next time, I hope to be done with the front panel at least. Maybe I've done some embroidery, maybe not. That would be my goal, but I'm trying to like note down the things that I am learning from this process, and we will see how this turns out. I'm still like holding judgment and also just learning from the process. And then if it is what I want, great. If not, we will go from there. If you watch my goal, like my planning video, then you know that I plan to knit at least one sort of landscape sweater this year. So if it's not this one, if I decide that this is not right, I will go back to the drawing board and kind of create something from scratch, probably in stitch fiddle, based on a pattern that I, like the gauge of and think could work. So yeah, overall, I'm super proud of where I've gotten to with it, especially considering I'd never done Intarsia. It is a mess to work on, but you just kind of embrace that. And I have not figured out, like I've seen some videos where people have like their balls all perfectly lined up. This is not that. This is like, this is just chaos. But not in a bad way. So yeah, that is the homestead sweater-ish, and it's still a work in progress, and it will probably still be a work in progress the next time I come back on here. So my next whip is, let's do the slightly simpler one actually. So this is, the last one was a journey. This is my book club pullover. Well, so this is the vision. If you watch my planning video, you know that there was an idea that a kind of inspired thing that I've thinking about, which is a cardigan, cable cardigan with like embroidered flowers on it is the basic concept. I sort of have been inundated with images on Pinterest and Instagram and whatever with people embroidering cables. And I just think it's so beautiful. And then I saw this yarn. Originally it was going to be blue, my plan. And then I saw this yarn on a jumper on eBay in the US. And so I had it sent to my mom's house. And I'll put up a picture of the original sweater. And this is a tweedy, like super, it's got so many beautiful colors in it. It's got like reds and it's got orange and purple and yellow and blue and all these things. Absolutely stunning. And I just fell in love with that, and that inspired this idea that like it could go with all these different flowers, and I could maybe, knit on the garment now when it's not particularly spring-like outside. Although there's definitely some spring bulbs. I've got my hyacinth here. The idea being that like I could start embroidering on some flowers and like maybe not do them all this year, maybe do a few of them this year and then do them as like over the years, which I just like the idea of and the story behind. So I am working on that. So I got that yarn when I was in California. I immediately unraveled it because I was like so inspired by this yarn. And then the trick was figuring out what I was going to pair it with, because it kind of came, it was very, I would say it was fingering. I knew that like I probably wasn't going to do a fingering cable pattern. And the one I was looking at the most, simply because it has these like windows that I wanted and the number of windows that I kind of wanted on the garment, was the Book Club Pullover by Sari Nordland. I had purchased this pattern in her like Advent sale, and I think the Book Club cardigan is beautiful, which is what a lot of people have knit. There seems to be a lot of issues with the lining up the back, and people have certain issues with it. The pullover doesn't seem to have those issues. So either she fixed it before she released like the lining up of the cables on the back, or yeah, I guess she fixed it and then just didn't update the Book Club cardigan version. But anyway, it's not an issue on the pullover. But even then, I've still made some edits to this, as I do. And I think it's a beautiful design, and I think it will work for what I want to create, which is this cabled pullover with embroidered flowers on it. Did I say I wanted to make a cardigan? Because I don't. I wanted to make the pullover. Anyway, I then came back and I realized I had a couple options of what I was going to hold this with, the kind of beautiful yarn, but I had kind of forgotten about this one this sweater that I purchased in California in the summer, and I wasn't sure if it was going to unravel, but I'll put a picture of the original garment that I got on eBay, and I had bought it because the color was beautiful, and when I held them together, I wouldn't have, in my head, seen the images that were on eBay. I wouldn't have put the two together, but in person, the yarn works perfectly. So, enough yammering, my goodness. This is where we are at. So I have done the back panel and I've picked up for the right or left shoulder, I don't remember, left shoulder, it's like this. And I'm just working through the pattern and I'm really enjoying the repeat. It's not as much fun as the Vivi, I'm not gonna lie. The Vivi cardigan, if you're ever looking for a simple, like just a fun cable knit, this stitch repeat. She's got a cardigan, a pullover, and a hat, I think. And it's just an enjoyable cable. This one is nice, but it's not as enjoyable. But the yarn is just, it's just everything. I just love it. So one of the things that I'm potentially going to regret is doing the seed stitch inside of these windows and whether or not that's going to ruin my embroidery dreams. I don't think it will. I think I'll be able to work with it and make it still look good. But I feel like it's a little late now, and I really like the look of the seed stitch in there. One of the alterations or modifications that I've made is instead of moss stitch down the side, I've done seed stitch. I originally did moss stitch, and as I was doing it, I realized that in the Book Club pullover, there is moss stitch here and on the side, so it kind of works. In the cardigan, there's moss stitch here and then the sides. In the pullover, there isn't any moss stitch anywhere except for the sides and the arms, which it goes with cables, I think moss stitch does, but seed stitch is in each of these little things. So I noticed a few people had done this on Ravelry, and I decided I would be one of them. So I am really enjoying this. The other thing I'm doing, which is there are these kind of knit lines down the sides. And when I did my swatch and I started looking obsessively at people's visuals, I didn't like how the knit stitch looked. So I did a twisted knit stitch on this, and I like that much better. I think it's much cleaner and much more just like polished somehow. So the other thing I did, I've done two other things. So one was, I mentioned this, but like in my planning video, but I mentioned wanting to try doing sort of this technique that Ruby and Pearl, I think her name is, or Leah, I think is her name. But anyway, she has a podcast and she was talking about how she does this sort of like yarn over technique on these kinds of constructions where you've got the trapezoid shape and then you do, is that a trapezoid? I don't know. My geometry knowledge is pretty poor. But where you kind of do that and then you do like a yarn over before the last stitch or right after the first stitch, like right as either before or after you're doing the increase, depending on which side you're on. And I did that on this back panel, and I actually really enjoyed it. I don't know if I suspect it has given like a bit more stretch here than, if not, I should compare it to this actually, because this is the same construction. It does feel a little bit stretchier. What I actually really liked about it was it just made doing the increases really easy because the the yarn to make the increase was already there. So in the way that she describes it, like she talks about dropping the stitch and then picking up, dropping a stitch and then doing the increase. I just kind of kept it on the needle and then switched it around the way that I needed it, depending on what kind of an increase I was doing. And I don't know, it's very hard to explain. She does explain it in her video. I will link to that. But I would say that like, until you do it, it's very hard to explain. So I recommend just trying it on something and seeing how you like it. I actually really liked it. So I'm very happy I did that. The other thing I did was I did the same kind of technique in terms of a sort of seam down the side of this. So that is there. So the pattern does actually line up in terms of these kind of diamond cables. And I know that's a big like issue in the cardigan. I've done it slightly different. So the pattern has you do, obviously you've got a twist at the top here, and then when you go here, it has you do a twist pretty quickly. I think it's on the second row. And I just didn't do that. So I kind of treated the twist below as the twist that would lead into the one going up. I don't know if that makes any sense, but basically minor alteration on that. I had done it with the twist and then I realized that it was like twisted twice and that just didn't make any sense to me. So I really enjoy knitting this. I've kind of memorized the pattern or can read my knitting. I say that and I already made a mistake last night when I was doing this kind of cable, this diamond cable at the top. I missed a row at the like middle point, so it's slightly more squished, but I think I'm just going to do that on both sides for the first diamond. And it's actually a good thing because it then lines up the repeat with the other cable in a way that is in the pattern so that it will make more sense when it connects in the round. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that is where we're at with this. So yeah, so I'm working away on this, really enjoying working on this. These are the two yarns. Let me just show you. Let's see if you can see these without me in it. So you can kind of see. I'm really enjoying just like this concept of this like super tweedy, beautiful yarn with something slightly softer. Like I don't knit with a lot of mohair, but I could see you doing the same sort of thing where you have like a super tweedy and then a mohair with it or a fluff of some kind and it just softens it slightly. And I'm finding that this is doing a very similar thing. So now I did swatch for this pattern and my swatch, I knew the second I measured the swatch, it was lying to me. It was just one of those where I was like, this isn't, no. I don't know what you're doing, but this is not right. So I ended up just casting it on with what my gut instinct was telling me to do, which is I'm knitting this on 4.5, I believe. Yeah, 4.5 millimeter needles, and that's working out for me. And I did measure this, so I did then like block the back triangle before I went into like the length increase, and it was measuring pretty close. I think I'm slightly large. I think my gauge is slightly larger than the pattern, but I don't mind that because I tend to knit up a size anyway or increase. Prefer a little oversized. The other thing I've done, so I think I'm knitting this like width-wise to about a size 3 to 4. I think I added an extra row accidentally. So I'm somewhere between a 3 and a 4. And then lengthwise, I have increased quite a lot. It's like, so I think it says, you know, it needs 10 centimeters or something like that after, and I think I'm probably at 12 or 13 centimeters. So like I added a little chunk on to the end, and that will mean that I will want my sleeves to be bigger than the way that she's designed it. It's just my preference. I just prefer looser sleeves. So yeah, let's say I'm knitting a size 3 and my sleeves will probably be about a size 5. But we'll see when we get there how many stitches I actually pick up. But yeah, so this is my book club pullover by Sari Nordland in 2 reclaimed cashmere yarns. Actually, the tweedy one is a wool cashmere, so I think this is actually only 15% cashmere, but this is 100% cashmere, so it's still very soft and lovely. So that's that one. Yeah, loving it so far. This color is just, it's everything. It's so good, so good. All right, the next little bit I'm going to talk about is this project that was supposed to be simple and it's turned out to be incredibly complicated. Not complicated, I have made it complicated and I've ended up down rabbit holes. I have swatched so many things in the last month, but my original vision, if you watched my planning video, I talked about this concept of like my cocoon sweater, and I think inspired by, you know, this Baba sweater and what I'm seeing a lot of people knit right now, which is sort of like these big, oversized, cozy funnel neck / roll neck, super warm, lovely, exactly what you want to be wearing in this weather. And I was going to knit one of those. And so I started swatching. Well, first I found this yarn in California, or on eBay. Sent it to my mom. It's a similar concept to the kind of tweedy. Turns out my kryptonite is tweedy cashmere yarn. I just cannot not buy it, apparently. This one, I'll show you the original on screen, but this is sort of what let's do that. This is what the yarn kind of looks like. And I started swatching that with a number of things. I started swatching it with, I thought when I got it, I was like, this is perfect for this concept, right? This big kind of cozy, looks like a cocoon, right? And I have a bunch of like reclaimed cashmere brown yarn at home, so I'll try it with those. I knew it, like, this is probably a light DK, maybe a proper DK when it's actually puffed out, but let's say a light DK. And I knew a lot of the patterns I was looking at were kind of more towards worsted. I was going to hold it with gray. I was going to hold it with brown, beige. I swatched everything and it just didn't look right. Like there was either too much yarn, it was the wrong color, the wrong saturation of color, whatever it was. I have finally found a pairing for it that I'm really happy with. It involved me going on Vinted and finding a piece that I knew would probably be the right color after I had swatched a million things that were not the right color. But in the meantime, I did a number of things, including dyeing a sweater that I picked up in California as well. And I picked it up to reclaim. This is this Banana Republic cabled gray sweater. I will put that on the screen as well. And I dyed that brown, thinking that it would be good pairing for this. And the brown it came out was like not a good pairing. It was just much too warm. And yet I swatched this yarn and I like fell in love with the swatch. It was just so scrumptious. It's literally just reminds me of chocolate. So I decided, until I figure out what I'm doing with this cocoon sweater, we're just gonna leave it to the side. And now that I actually know, I might cast something on, but I'll talk about that in plans. And so I ended up casting on this chocolate sweater, which is what I'm calling it, my chocolate bar sweater. And I am knitting the Saglan. I don't remember the designer's name, but I will put it on screen. And this was inspired by Soph Knits Daily, who has knit this twice and seems to really like the pattern. It's a great pattern, like really, really good. It's a contiguous shoulder, sort of saddle shoulder construction. You can kind of see the saddle. This color though is just scrumptious. Like it is just so delicious looking. It is so, the yarn just came out. I'm trying to hide myself. It's not coming out as nice on screen, I'm not gonna lie. It's a little washed out. But I will try and put a picture of it, and it's just like, it reminds me of when I take my little bits of chocolate. So my favorite chocolate is the Lindt 85% dark chocolate, and I dip it into my tea, and it looks like that color. Like it's like that velvety, delightful chocolate. So anyway, that is where we're at. So I cast that on just being like, I need something basic stockinette on my needles. I'm just craving it. I'm craving something cozy and warm. And so I started knitting this. And I love the fabric that it's creating. I've really enjoyed the pattern. I'm sort of close to splitting for sleeves, which means the rounds are taking forever. And one of the things I started thinking was, how can I make this more complicated? Because of course I cast this on because I wanted a simple stockinette thing, but I know I'm gonna get bored at some point. So I've started to dream up a few different details that I want to add to the collar and to the hems. I'll put some images of like just inspiration that I pulled off Pinterest, mostly from commercial jumpers. The first question that I have for you is, anybody who maybe knows this, I've got this image, and I'll put it up, of a neckline that I think would be super fun and beautiful for this. And I can't tell for the life of me how it's knit. So it looks like you kind of like do a sort of decrease and then maybe a yarn over increase to create that. And I don't know if there's a hole there or if it's just, anyway, I'm gonna put the image up. If you have ideas about how to knit this, I would love to hear them. I think it's so cool. I think it's a beautiful detail, and I think I would like to try. I will try regardless. So that is one thing that I'm thinking about, is how I make the details. So I'm also looking at sort of like hem details and other things that will kind of, I'm definitely taking inspiration from the idea of like a bar of chocolate. And again, if you watch my planning video, you know that like I'm all about the storytelling around my knits, and this is my chocolate sweater. So the other idea that I had was whether or not I wanted to almost create like lines down the knit. So I could either do that by dropping stitches, or I could drop the stitch, go back and do it purlwise so that it kind of creates indentations. I'm thinking like the back panel and the front panel maybe. I'm kind of talking myself out of this version though, because I think the reason I put this on my needles because I wanted plain stockinette. I could do something under the arm to keep it engaging while I'm doing in the round. But this also knits up pretty quickly. This is on 4.5 millimeter needles. And yeah, it's going pretty quickly. I think that's what I'm gonna do. I think I'm just gonna, but if you have ideas about like, one of the ideas that I've since vetoed because it's more complicated than I need it to be, is to do this like asymmetrical sort of panels of ribbing, variations of ribbing. I'll put some images up. I don't think that's gonna happen on this sweater. I think it could happen in future sweaters, but yeah. I guess, yeah, I kind of like the idea of dropping a stitch and like letting it kind of create a seam, maybe down the back. I don't know. What do you think? I'm open to ideas. I'm also, obviously dropping a stitch is not going to engage me in the process. You need to do that at the end. But yeah, anyway, that's just, chocolate sweater is happening. The Saglan, the pattern is great, really detailed. She gives a lot of different recommendations for like turning into a men's fit, or what to do if your gauge is a little bit off on one direction or the other. She talks about like the pattern kind of encompasses DK to Aran, and then she has a separate fingering weight pattern for the same construction. So it's a really like, it's not a separate one, it's in the same pattern. So like you get, basically it's your contiguous shoulder construction template for a variety of different things. I've enjoyed knitting it, but it's really just, it's the color that's like completely drawing me to it. I'm loving it. So anyway, that has become my like simple knit that I'm working on and really enjoying. And yeah, looking forward to seeing where this one goes. And oh, it's also giving this image that I had on my like vision board for 2026. I do a vision board on Pinterest mostly because I like visuals more as like a vibe thing than I want to create this or have this or do this or whatever it is. And I had this image on of this woman in a like chocolate sweater that I think is stunning. So I'm like manifesting. A little bit of a stretch. Manifesting into creating the wrong color. What's really frustrating is when I was dyeing this, it's not frustrating because I think it's turned out for the better, especially now that I've found a pairing for my other one. But one of the downsides of how I do my dyeing is I do it in my bathtub. So I don't dye the things in my bathtub. I have vats, like buckets, plastic buckets in my bathtub, but like if things slosh over or whatever, it's in the bathtub, so it doesn't get everywhere. And a downside of that is I'm usually doing it at night and there's no natural light in my bathroom. So when I was doing this and like, you know, you can kind of like, you're putting it in the dye bath and then you can kind of like squeeze out and see how it's looking color-wise. And I think I just looked at it and was like, oh, it's still gray. And it was not. I don't think it was. I think it was turning the right color gray to go with my other yarn. But I got impatient and added a very different color gray, which is more of a brown. It's more of a chocolate brown. And that is what we ended up with. I actually kind of love it. Like it's making me so happy. I think this is a beautiful color. I think I'll be so happy. I think this yarn is stunning. And I'm quite surprised because usually once you've like unraveled and dyed and like rewound the yarn, it's not in bad shape, but it's not like as fluffy as it maybe once was in its original form. And this one's still like delightfully fluffy. Like if you could see, you can't quite see the halo on this, but no, it's going really light in the viewfinder. Anyway, that is that. Happy as can be with this. I'm going to keep going on that. Let me know your thoughts on either the neck, the collar construction, or if you think I should kind of play with having a couple lines here and there. I think I probably will do on the sides just because why not? It's pretty low risk. Okay. That is mostly everything. I did have one other that I cast on in the midst of all these swatches and wanting something basic and whatever else. I cast on with a yarn that I've had in my stash for a while. I got this early on in my knitting, or even maybe crochet I was doing with this. It was on sale. It's the Rowan cashmere tweed. It's like 20% cashmere, and it's a DK weight yarn. And I got really inspired by the sort of just design details on the mono notebook mono. I'll put it up. It's really beautiful sweater, and I really want to knit it. I think a lot of her designs are really beautiful. I think she's not the most size inclusive pattern designer. I think there's a little bit to be desired there. But some of her design details are really stunning. She's got this like arches one, which has these little pretty arches. I really like this sort of detail here. I also like the stitch pattern detail on this mono notebook one, but I wasn't in the mood to knit the stitch pattern. So I was just gonna do the detail here and then knit stockinette for the rest of the garment. And I actually knit the two things. And I kind of put it to the side because I got sucked into the rest of this and I was like, this isn't what I wanted to knit. Maybe I just want to knit the garment as it's designed with the stitch pattern when I'm in the mood for a more textured knit. I think it could be nice. So I'm putting it on ice for now and deciding where I go from there in the future. But just letting you know that that has also been playing on my mind. I went in so many circles. I find choosing a basic pattern so much harder than choosing like an intricate pattern, because I think if you fall in love with an intricate pattern, it's for the like very specific reasons. Whereas I think the basics, you're like, well, I could do this one or I could do that one, and it's all kind of similar. Like there's a lot of, you know, DK to worsted, drop shoulder versions out there of beautiful knits that I would love to knit, but I'm definitely drawn to different details. So yeah, I think I chose the Saglan because I wanted to do a contiguous shoulder construction. I was just in the mood to kind of more be knitting in the round, but I didn't want to do a raglan. Anyway, I did, like I mentioned, find a yarn to pair with the original yarn that I was going to knit this cocoon sweater in. So it's just a very simple lace weight, almost a little bit heavier than lace, and it's kind of like a cool brown, and I found one on Vinted that I thought would work, and then I knit up a swatch this morning. I haven't blocked the swatch. I knit this up on 4mm. I think it could go to 4.5. But I just wanted to see how it looked, and it's finally doing what I want it to do, which is just making the tweedy bits a little more subtle, but blending it in a nice way, as opposed to creating more marling, which just kind of distracted from the beautiful tweed bits. So yeah, I'm very happy with how this is going. It is, it's lovely. It's really lovely. I'm very happy I got to something with this. I'm looking at knitting this new pattern. It's come out. It is a lot of stockinette is my concern. So I don't know if that's gonna happen. I think I'm gonna just work on the Saglan and the other projects that I have going. Know that I have this as an option. It might be something that I knit in the fall. It might be something that I pick up because I'm just really craving it. But I'll put up the design that I'm thinking of using this for, which is very much that like Baba style, oversized roll neck type thing, or mock neck or funnel neck or whatever it is. So yeah, that is that. That's quite a lot. I don't think I've ever had this many whips on the go. And they all have, like, there's reasons why certain ones aren't moving very fast, and I'm totally okay with that. And yeah, as far as acquisitions, as I've talked about, there were things that I bought in California and had sent to my mom's. There's also things that I bought over the Christmas period, like the Queen fibers for both my Evie mittens and my socks. Yeah, I think that's it. Oh, I did buy this book for my, what do you call it? My embroidery project. I don't really know much about the designer or the person doing this, but there's lots of just sketches and ideas for how you would do this and instructions, and I think it will be good inspiration. I've already gotten inspired by, I think it was originally in Japanese, because a lot of these are very like Japanese flowers. But I'm really enjoying flicking through this and getting inspired and imagining what I could put in my sweater. and I'm really looking forward to that. Right, I think I've talked enough. I hope I've talked enough. I do wonder if I should do these more often and not yak on for quite as long, but I don't know if that would stop me from talking so much. So yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you think. I'm just really grateful for you being here. If you've lasted this long, amazing. Well done you. I hope you've been knitting on something fun. I hope that your start to your knitting year has been, I don't know if fruitful is the right way to describe it, but enjoyable. I hope that you're kind of keeping cozy and enjoying your kind of, if you're in this part of the world, cold, dark, wet winter. I know a lot of you probably are experiencing incredible snowstorms. And yeah, I just thank you for being here, and I will see you next time. Thank you. Bye.